Hi, this is Dubois. Welcome to week 3 in the Criterion closet. Today I'm going to highlight the theme of debut features from artists with distinct voices. Okay, I'm going to start with 1973, the emergence of Terrence Malick, Badlands. Martin Sheen, Sissy Spacek. It doesn't yet take on some of the dreamlike quality of what Malick became known for, especially with Days of Heaven and then his 20-some-odd year gap and that kind of poetic license. But the seeds, the kernels are there. And what I'm going to respond to a lot in these films that I'm showing today is the seeds of what become director trademarks later. So you definitely have that kind of poetic quality impinging upon the narrative. It's there in The Journey of the Two Killers, but this is more narratively grounded than some of his later features, Tree of Life, Hidden Life, where they become a little bit more detached from classical storytelling techniques. Next, I'm going to go 1989, Sex, Lies, and Videotape, Steven Soderbergh's emergence into indie cinema. But what we have with Soderbergh, and then hot on his heels, with the rise of Tarantino a couple of years later, P.T. Anderson shortly thereafter. It really kind of starts in 1989 with Sex, Lies, and Videotape. What I love about debut features in general is where you often get to see scrappy filmmakers working on super limited budgets, where they get to be super creative in terms of how they execute their vision. And that, to me, that theory of constraints, it often leads to some rule breaking and some really exciting opportunities that I've always responded to, maybe because I'm more of a do-it-yourself filmmaker that's never had access to a large budget, but to be able to take inspiration from, largely bedroom-based, dialogue-driven film like this that is still entrancing and dramatic and filled with tension. Let's go across the pond now. Danny Boyle, his first film, coming out of more of a theatrical background, but so much kinetic energy. You think about those early Boyle films, Shallow Grave in this case, 1994. Shortly thereafter, you have Trainspotting, right? I mean, this is a film that is filled with that post-punk energy. It is fueled with an amazing soundtrack and just the sheer visceral energy. This is very different from Sex, Lies, and Videotape in that Sex, Lies, and Videotape derives its tension from dialogue and conversation. This film lets you feel the intense energy of the actors. Again, very limited budget. What can you do with some interesting plot points that play with kind of that noir-esque or even horror tropes? But okay, let's go back in time. 1960, French New Wave, Godard, Breathless, Jean-Paul Belmondo, Gene Seberg. In my very first video, I profiled the 400 Blows, which did technically precede this, and Godard was involved with the production of 400 Blows. But this Kaihei Du Cinema Club really gets its energy and its infusion and its manifesto, for lack of a better word, from Godard and this film, which is just not only a love letter to the American cinema of the past, that this group of filmmakers, these are the films that inspired them, but then they break the formal conventions. Jump cuts is enough, but the way in which this thing fuses genre and the energy that it has, it's oh god, it's such a good movie. I talked about this kind of independent cinema movement of the 90s, this resurgence of independent cinema, and I think the tail end of it, as it was dying, is where we began to see filmmakers that had developed their voices in music videos. David Fincher comes out of this crowd, a number of others, but Spike Jonze, and being John Malkovich. What Spike Jonze brought with his music video inspired style, quick jump cuts, this willingness to merge art cinema with narrative cinema, to go to strange and funky places, to do a lot in camera, to have fun, to tell such a bizarre story, obviously famously authored by Charlie Kaufman. But being John Malkovich is such a head trip, such a glorious film, and I wish Spike Jonze made more films, right? Next, I'm going to highlight the arrival of the Coen brothers in 1984 with Blood Simple. There's nothing that I can add to the dialogue on the Coen brothers that hasn't already been said. I wish they were still working together. I think they are together greater than the sum of their parts. Talk about theory of constraints, talking about working on a limited budget and being super creative. What they pulled out was a miracle with Blood Simple. We have a neo-noir that's kind of this nihilistic yet absurdly funny film anchored by Frances McDormand, John gets. It's gross, it's exhilaratingly violent, but it's so much fun. And when you saw Blood Simple, you knew these guys had something to say. And I'm going to highlight again another 1999 film. This one has echoes. It talks to Spike Jonze, but this is Sofia Coppola's Virgin Suicides, based on the novel by Jeffrey Eugenides. But what we see with her arrival is her stepping out of her father's shadow, saying, I am a filmmaker with a voice, with something to say. I think what she brings here is voice to this kind of romantic voice to teenagers in this early film, this lust and longing, and how it can kind of warp the everyday. It's something we all felt as adolescents growing up. Her command of the medium, the performances she gets out of the primarily female cast here, it's fantastic. And Sofia Coppola has created a legendary career unto herself.